We are going to try voting by voice, which hopefully everyone had an opportunity. I made a cheat sheet. I also posted it on the College Senate website. But in the future, we're thinking that maybe I would ask for objections. If there's no objections, then the motion could carry, which is item number 6 on the Roberts Rule of Order. But since this is brand new and we are voting by voice, what we'll do when it comes up for a time for a motion, I will, of course, obviously ask for objections, but then we will do the voice vote of yay or nay or any abstentions. And we're going to go by collective volume. And then, of course, you have the right, if you don't agree with the vote, as a senator, you can ask for us to continue on. Michael?
Just a suggestion, it might be helpful, we're not necessarily going to count votes, but if you say, if you vote by voice, also raise your hand.
That works?
That helps.
And we have a visual as well. Perfect. So that's how we're going to go today, and we'll see how we all do with that. Okay, so with that, I also want to welcome Len Lenahan, our new chair of our Board of Trustees, who's here with us today. He was just elected, so thank you. And then we also have a new senior executive member. We have Tracy Archie, who's here in the back. She is our Chief Diversity Officer. She comes from Finger Lakes Community College, and she's going to be working with us on our strategic plan for diversity. So there's Tracy over there, everybody. Welcome to the team. Okay, and then with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Hakoy to come on up and give your welcome.
Good afternoon. Very pleased to be here. Since Len Lenahan is now our new chair, I wanted to give him an opportunity to address this august body and talk about some of the priorities of the board at this point in time. Len, come on up.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here and honored to have the opportunity to be elected board chair about a month ago. And it's been kind of an exciting time. There's a lot of good things happening. Dan's leadership is still fairly new, 15, 16 months. But the main thing I wanted to talk about today is just to tell you that the board had our annual retreat about 2-3 weeks ago. And the main focus of our discussion, and it was a day-long discussion, we covered a lot of areas, but the area that we hit on, I think, most significantly was the whole idea of making student success, student advancement as our core issue for this year, for the 18-19 school year, and hopefully beyond. I know in some of my previous visits here, we've talked about the renewed focus on retention, which we think is absolutely necessary, and we're encouraged by what you're doing along those lines and participating in those decisions and in those developments of those policies. But we think, with an emphasis on in the city, where the kids, so many kids come out of the high school, they're not necessarily college ready, and that our board thinks that we need to play a role in trying to provide as much support as we can. And I don't mean just the Buffalo School District, there's others as well. But the point is, I think we need to commit ourselves to doing what we can do to provide remedial work, provide support services, be it childcare, transportation, the whole range of impediments that so many students that are at risk, that are having a hard time, getting themselves a good, solid education. We need to do what we can within realistic, boundaries. I mean, we know we can't do everything there, but we can be a support system. We can be a helping hand, and we can be concerned. As Colleen said before, one of the policies this year is to try to just be kind and understand that not everybody has the advantages that some of us had, growing up, and that there's no doubt that we need to help kids as much as we can gain an education at SUNY Erie and then get on from there. And I know my young daughter has she's in the Big Sister, Little Sister program, and she is a mentor to a student at Performing Arts. And they've had a great experience for 8 years, but that experience is still going on. And that girl's now a senior and trying to decide what she's going to do next year. And she wants to come to Erie Community College, SUNY Erie, excuse me, Dan. And she wants to be a nurse, but she's not quite ready for that. So we're going to see what we can do going to career services to see what we can do to help her get to where she wants to go. And I think that should be, that should be the goal of all of us, all of our students and all of our, employees here, faculty, administration, those that are in support services. So anyways, not to prolong it, we're looking forward to this year. I'm excited by this College Senate. I like the way that everybody comes together, gets things done, focuses on issues, and then moves on to the next one. So we just want you to know that we are standing shoulder to shoulder with you. Our priorities are similar, and we come together in a united front. We can get the things done that we want to get done for this year. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Len. Some of you don't know, but Len is a resident expert on John F. Kennedy, and I attended a very fascinating presentation on Kennedy becoming elected at the Clarence Retirement Center. And I will inform you about the next presentation so that you too will be treated to this wondrous knowledge about John F. Kennedy. When's the next presentation?
We just had one last night.
Oh, you did have one last night.
In the spring, we'll be having 4 or 5 more.
Okay.
So the program, University Express, which is done through the County Department of Senior Services, they schedule programs basically in October and November. They take a break for the holidays and then begin again. So we'll be right now focusing on John F. Kennedy, the 50th anniversary of his assassination and his presidential campaign. So
We'll announce it at the Senate. If you can provide date, times.
yeah.
That's very great. So, consistent with the board mandate for advancing student success, I had a meeting, or we had a meeting, Rick, myself, Deb Schmidt, with Kreiner Cash on Friday, as well as his team, to promote the advancement of students from the Buffalo Public Schools in 2 areas. One is in advanced studies, so that they can concurrently get college credit while completing their high school, which gives them a leg up when they come to college. They'll be up a few courses, and that it also gives them a little more confidence about taking college courses. And then we also talked about getting support for a summer bridge program. So very similar to our Summer Success Academy from Say Yes, but that this would be through the Buffalo Public Schools, and we're looking at getting funding for that. So the idea is that if their math scores or their English scores are a little behind, instead of taking remedial courses in the fall, if they could advance just 1 or 2 courses in the summer, it would put them over the hump so that when they start in the fall, they're actually taking credit-bearing courses. The other way I think we can really help improve student success is a program of SUNY called Guided Pathways. And it's one way we can move the needle in terms of retention and completion. And it helps navigate students from enrollment through academic studies, and then also benefit from student services. It's a priority of mine that we apply for a SUNY grant, which is coming in the fall. No, sorry, in the spring. And I think, Nora, you want to come up and answer any questions? There will be an information session on Wednesday, December 5th in the afternoon.
Information session, December 5th at South Campus, 1:30 to 4:30. Refreshments will be served. And that's for anybody who wants additional information about it. We also want to try to have one at North Campus. We don't have a date yet, but we'll send an email out to everybody. It's exploratory at this point. It's not a one-size-fits-all type of framework. You do what works for your institution, but it's cross-functional teams coming together and moving the needle on retention and student success without the silos. So we have to do that work anyway, and what Guided Pathways does is provide the framework to get that work done. and the application is due February 19th. Our incoming provost, Doug Scheit, has already said that he's supportive of it and would want to move in that direction, but he wouldn't be here to start that process of getting people involved and applying. So we're trying to get that started, before his arrival. But it's kind of something that we can't really avoid. We're doing a lot of great things on retention in different spaces in the college, but it's not cohesive. And so this really provides us with a framework for moving forward. Does anybody have any questions? We'll be sending out the invitation for the information session, encourage everybody to attend, and we're also going to try to do one at North Campus. City Campus is a little bit difficult because of the parking issue. So if you're at City Campus, if you can make it to North or South, that would be great.
Not really a question, just a comment. I just want to make sure that everybody here is aware of the fact that we already have a Senate committee or task force? Task force that has been working on these kinds of issues.
Yeah, thank you.
So one of the advantages of applying for this grant is we get money from SUNY to implement guided pathways on our campus to the individuality that we think would best befit the college. It also helps structure us in terms of process. So those are some of the advantages. On the other end of student success is what we're going to be showcasing actually at the STEM building tonight, and you're all invited. There is food and drink, both hard and soft, 6 p.m., and we have invited many business leaders. I personally invited Renee Jones from M&T Bank this morning. And the idea is to showcase what we do in terms of workforce development for businesses and industries in Western New York. We have a small video that we're going to show tonight. So if you can't attend, we presented the video here for your enjoyment. But it will highlight how our career services are working with industry to create a more prosperous and successful region. I don't know if we should go ahead.
For more than 70 years, SUNY Erie Community College has served the needs of the Western New York community through comprehensive career and workforce training. SUNY Erie's renewed commitment to placing the needs of students first as future employees to the region's business sector brings a sense of excitement about the possibilities that lie ahead. Career Services at SUNY Erie plays an integral role in connecting students and alumni to employment opportunities in the community. We are committed to preparing our students for life outside of the classroom by starting them on a successful career path.
So the Career Services Office helps our students along their entire career development path while they're at the college. So we work with students who are incoming, trying to help them decide on an appropriate major. And then we work with students in developing their skills while they're here. And then we work with them on their way out, resumes, cover letters, interview skills, and trying to connect them with the proper job if their goal is to find a job right after graduation. We also work really closely with local employers and trying to match them up with the ideal student.
So we offer a focus assessment that allows them to really narrow down their interests on what they can possibly major based on their personality and based on their work ethics and what they're interested in. There's like a couple of things. So just for students who just don't know at all anything about like the job field or what they're interested in, I feel like Career Services does help them figure out, at least narrow an area about where they want to concentrate in.
SUNY Erie's Office of Career Services takes the student's experience to a higher level to ensure they're on the road to success. But the relationship with our students doesn't end at graduation. The college's Office of Workforce Development is committed to bringing the business community a host of customized programs that will keep employees on the cutting edge of technology, a service many businesses do not have the resources to undertake themselves.
Come to us with a need. We identify potential instructors in that area. And really what we like to do is do a thorough needs assessment with the company. That might involve just a phone conference call with an instructor. It might get as extensive as doing a tour of their facility to see their equipment, to see the issues that they're having maybe on the manufacturing floor. And we can offer a customized class as short as a 2-hour class or as extensive as a 2 to 3 year training program like we do with apprentice training. We work very closely with Ford on their apprentice program, and really what Ford does is they take usually people from production and they want to move them up into the skilled trades. So we work with Ford. When we get a new group of apprentices, we usually have the apprentices for 2 to 3 years. We offer them a series of classes. When we're done with them and they hopefully complete their testing with Ford, they become journeyman electricians, welders, tool and die makers, millwrights, machine repair.
Through its consistent work with the Ford Motor Company Apprentice Program, SUNY Erie continues to contribute to the development of a strong, well-trained workforce that rivals no other.
Well, in my opinion, I think SUNY Erie and what we do here in this great region of ours is the best in the whole country. You know, I have the privilege of speaking with several counterparts of mine throughout the country that handle their apprenticeship in Chicago or Dearborn and Detroit, all over the country. And you know, when I go to conferences, we network, we talk about things, and I just hear stories, and I know what we're doing is world class.
Thanks, Colleen. Any thoughts? I want to thank Paula and her team for this great video. Greg, did you have a question?
I like it. I like the focus on career paths.
Any other thoughts or comments? Good.
I didn't happen to notice any faculty members appearing in the video. I'm just wondering if next time we could make sure we get a faculty member in it.
This was pulled together all yesterday. In fact, what's that? Oh, we got the token faculty in there, Mike. We're actually having to go prepare for it now because it's been a last minute job. But I think it's very important for us to make those connections, those private-public partnerships that benefit not only us, but the industries around us. You may have heard today that Amazon made their decision about the second headquarters, and it'll be split between Long Island, New York, and Arlington, Virginia. And when I first arrived, I was asked if I had any connection to Seattle or Amazon, and I said, well, I know Jeff Bezos. My office was just 2 blocks from his, and I'll write a personal letter to advocate for the region, and I did. But deep in my heart, I knew that we probably would not get the second headquarters for one primary reason, that when I was president of Antioch University in Seattle, we were building programs for Amazon, right, in terms of workforce development for their 50,000 employees. And in the region, we just don't have the talent pipeline. So for instance, UB only has 1 course in systems design, right, which is an issue because if you're a tech company of that magnitude, you're going to need talent immediately. And so one of my areas of emphasis has been in terms of redefining Erie for relevance, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And so, as I mentioned in convocation, the top 5 S&P 500 companies a year ago, only 2 were tech companies, right? The other 3 were Johnson & Johnson, ExxonMobil, and General Electric. This year, all 5 are tech companies. So that is defining workforce needs, and that is defining the curriculum that we need to prepare our students for. And so we've made some movement in that direction with our partnership with Facebook and a digital marketing certificate. We're only one of 9 colleges that they've partnered with. We're having discussions with WazU to provide digital skills training for our students. We're in partnership with Tesla. And so I think this will only address not only the skills gap in the region, right? It will also prepare our local businesses and industries with the highest skill set and the relevant skill set for today. And it may attract the next Amazon or the next Apple to the region. So any thoughts or questions before I have to prepare for tonight? And again, I hope to see you there, 6 o'clock, STEM building. Thanks.
All right. So with that, we have under old business, the first thing that we need to do, we have the June, September, and October College Senate meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comment or objection on those as they are posted on the site? Okay, so with no comment or objection, we'll say that they are accepted. Okay, I have Deb Doucette up for a Middle States update.
Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to update everyone. Since we had the visit, the first week of October, we have not heard anything yet. Their meeting is coming up this week, and we should hear from Middle States shortly. But with that, I wanted to let everyone know that I have updated the SharePoint Middle States site, so the monitoring report as well as our the visit report that Middle States issued to us, as well as our response to that, are now posted. They have been posted up on the announcements of the Middle States SharePoint site, so you can take a look at what we did document through that. The other thing, too, is I did want to say another thank you to everybody for all of the hard work that we had over the summertime and in September. As some of you guys might remember, in the fall, the Middle States team offered to all of the departments at all 3 campuses to please invite us in so we could come in and personalize institutional effectiveness, talk about the whole program competencies, everything that we were doing on a top level. And we were invited to 31 department visits. The liaisons did that in just really literally almost 3.5 weeks. They visited all those departments. So again, thank you very much for inviting us in. The other thing is that, and obviously it helped because it did reflect well with our visit. The other thing, too, is that we would like to continue with these department visits in the springtime for the liaison. So if you could spread the word, have the departments invite us in, those that did not get us in, so that way we can continue, because we have fantastic momentum and we just need to keep going and grow and continue. We can't slow down. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. All right. So next up, I've sent these out a couple of different times. We talked about them very briefly last month, but from our General Education Committee, we have Erickson Nealons and Will Falls here to discuss the new ILO rubrics.
Yes, thank you. So at the end of last month's meeting, we were able to identify that one of the areas that we see a great opportunity to improve in terms of our general education, specifically the SUNY Erie ILOs, is the development of the rubrics that you see in front of you. And working closely with Colleen, as well as the faculty caucus has seen these, as well as many units, we really wanted to be able to take these assessment tools and make them so that they are meaningful and relevant to the assessment of our general education competencies. So what you see here in front of you is the product of each of the different units that traditionally house these, has had input in how to create these. I have to acknowledge Andrew and his remarkable work in really developing these, as well as all the input that I've received. So at the last meeting, Colleen was gracious enough to send these out to everyone. For us, we think it's really important that everyone has an opportunity to really be able to address any concerns that they have with regards to these assessments or assessment tools before they, though, are approved and utilized. And that's what we saw today as, is an opportunity for any discussion, concerns that you have. I have my laptop here in front of me to address any specific concerns that someone has, or if you want to email me. And then the goal is that, depending on how the conversation goes today, to vote on those then at the December meeting.
I think it's also important to note that the General Education Committee has also voted unanimously to accept these as they are currently written. And as Erickson pointed out, I did send them out college-wide 2 days after the College Senate meeting in October, and then we sent them out again with faculty listservs and things like that. So today's your day. Any comments, questions, concerns about any of the rubrics? Ethel?
I have a question. It's about the rubric on scientific reasoning. The question is about the tense, which is used in the 4 columns that mark exceeds, met, approached, did not approach. Is there any reason why numbers 2 through 4 use the past tense and number 1 uses the present? Exceeds or exceeded, right?
Even though I may have my degree in psychology, full disclosure, I never passed English.
That's my line.
Yeah, so I stole that from Colleen. That probably is the best answer to that, but I am happy to make it so that the tense are consistent. So thank you very much for pointing that out.
Okay.
Certainly it hurts a little bit inside, but the English side certainly understands that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so well, as Erickson pointed out, we will be voting to approve these at the December meeting. So if right now you're thinking, gee, I didn't get around to reviewing those like I thought I was going to, please review them, because we would like to have your voice represented and heard, because this will be up for a vote in December. So other than the tenses, Erickson and his team will review those and double check the tenses, but if you have any other issues, please either email him, email me, and I'll get it to him. Bill Falls as well, but there's a whole team of people on general education that can help with this. Okay?
Just one note, if you do have comments, if you could get those to me earlier so that this way if there are substantial changes, then we can get them back out to you so that hopefully then December is not too much of a surprise and use our time wisely at that meeting.
Great, thank you. Okay, so next up we have the Academic Integrity Task Force update. Joanne Kolmerauer is going to be filling in for Erica Hendred to give us that update.
Hi, everybody. The Integrity Task Force has been working on 2 things the last couple months. One is the academic freedom policy. I sit on that Board of Trustees Policy Committee, and that's one that is up, and academic freedom affects all faculty, I think, and it's something that's commonly referred to. So we're updating the academic freedom policy. Colleen has it up on the screen. This did go through the Integrity Task Force, which is a Senate subcommittee. The members of that task force approved the language here. It was actually taken from a paper that Mike Delaney provided, and it was in higher education publications. The sources are cited on here of where this information came from on academic freedom. This new policy we're putting forward has a lot more detail about what academic freedom is and what it isn't from the previous policy. So if you're interested in reading a little bit about what we're putting forward, I thought that this might come up for vote either in today's meeting we're going to vote, Colleen, right? Or we were going to do it in December but present it today. But my understanding is the latest is that the FFECC Executive Committee wants to review this, so they will be doing that tomorrow. And then hopefully we'll report to the Policy Committee on Friday about where this stands. So I guess it's still up for interpretation, discussion, review. So please, if you want to take the time to review it and make comments, I guess those comments could, I'm the one that's working on it for the Policy Committee, and I'm also on that task force, so you could send it to me. But this one has a lot more detail, like I said, about what it is and what it isn't. So, and then the other issue or topic that the committee is dealing with is academic dishonesty. And we are mandated to report instances of academic dishonesty. We have not done that in an organized manner in the past, but we are, SUNY is telling us that we are mandated to report instances of academic dishonesty. So the committee is working on a form. We're still kind of passing it back and forth. Do you have that, Colleen, or we're not even to the point where we're going to show that? Okay. So we're working on a form, going through the process of having that reviewed, and we will submit it to Senate for you guys to review. Again, it will be something that will affect all faculty in their classrooms, this reporting of academic dishonesty. So we meet monthly, task force, so if you have thoughts about that, you can let us know.
Questions? Michael?
I just wanted to also say that the most of the language in this proposed policy comes from the AAUP, original policy on academic, I think it's academic freedom and tenure, from, I believe, 1960. And most statements everywhere are based on this original language. So if you want to access the original document, it's very available online and on the AAUP website. That's the American Association of University Professors. But that was actually jointly passed with the Association of Governing Boards. So it was not just faculty who created that original statement. It was approved by both faculty and boards.
And if you scroll down, Colleen, at the bottom, I cited the references, so you can see where I pulled, there it is. Those are the two sources where that information, where I pulled the information most recently from.
Yep. Yeah, the first paragraph is a copy of SUNY's exact policy.
Mhm,
And
yes.
then the remainder comes from the white paper from AAUP with Carrie Nelson's notes.
Anything else?
Okay. All right, so as Joanne mentioned, the FFECC Executive Committee would like to vet this. They meet tomorrow, and then we'll give the board policy board policy a update on Friday, and then this will be up for a vote pending all of those steps in December. If you have questions or comments or anything you'd like to add, again, let us know. Look up the original documents, let us know. Patty?
Just in terms of general process, whenever we have a policy document, and we've gone through this a couple of other times, any changes mean the document has to be recycled through everybody. So if FFE changes it, then it has to be changed. If the board policy committee decided to change it, it would have to come back through all of the steps. So it behooves us to be very mindful of any changes and to make sure that we're very committed to those changes. It looks like a good document, but in terms of timing, our meeting was the day after the Senate. Otherwise, we wouldn't have delayed it.
Right, and this will save us a lot of steps as well. With FFCC meeting tomorrow, board policy meeting on Friday. So then we'll get it back in December, hopefully final form, and we'll just move forward with all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. And no red pens. Hopefully not. Okay, so Michael Rio, there he is. Finally, we have our governance committee resolution. I'll pull up, it was suggested to us that we pull up the, there it is. The bylaw change, what it will actually look like with the red line changes. So there it is. Just that. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, so we are introducing a resolution to expand the at-large seats for the College Senate from 2 to 5. So we're adding 3 seats to address interest in constituencies from the college and serving on the College Senate. These seats will be immediately identified for temporary appointment, and then during the next election cycle will be open for anyone at the college to run for those at-large seats. So, go ahead.
So can I have a motion to approve the resolution to create 3 additional at-large members to the College Senate? Derek? Okay, second? Cooper? Okay, so now we're going to try, if you are a voting senator only, any objections to the motion? All in favor? Anyone not in favor? Opposed? Math. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. See, that wasn't too bad, right? Didn't have to do clickers. Okay, so we're going to move on to new business. And I'm going to call on, there he is, Steve Smith, and Jason Steinitz can back you up on anything you need as far as documentation, but discussion to reconvene the College Senate Scheduling Task Force. Steve?
All right, good afternoon. It's my understanding before I joined the college a year ago that there was a standing committee here within the Senate to look at optimizing opportunities for the academic schedule. One of the outcomes of that was a decision to pursue a PIF grant to receive funding to partner with a company called Ad Astra. Ad Astra is a data analytics firm that has worked with a number of SUNY institutions already to help them optimize their course offerings to students and give them some advanced planning capabilities. We did get in on that PIF grant. And at this point right now, we are looking to identify members of the campus community here that have a vested interest in this thing coming off well. The benefits of this are really, there's several from a planning perspective for our faculty and for administration to know the number of courses that we need to offer, to not be scrambling at the last minute to add or subtract additional course offerings. For our students, it gives us or gives them tremendous ability to forecast their graduation out more effectively, and really it is kind of a requirement for us to effectively roll out any guided pathway initiatives here at the college. So I certainly support it and would feel free to answer any questions.
So I pulled up on the screen the recommendations once the scheduling task force reconvened. These recommendations were made September 2017. I'm going to call on Jason.
I'm sorry. I was whispering. We did, at the previous task force, the initial one, we did think it was necessary that we carry on the task force in order to evaluate what we will get from a software such as this. And I think it's extremely important that we have a mix on that committee, that we have faculty representation, that we have the deans involved, because those two groups especially are very heavily involved and vested in scheduling. And of course, we're interested to know what kind of information we get out of this, how it works, what some of the options are. So I think it's important that we sort of reactivate this group and focus on reviewing the software, seeing what it can do and what it can't do, so on.
Patty?
Is there something in the proposal that describes the makeup of the committee?
Well, we would go off of, I believe, the original scheduling task force makeup. Because if we're going to restart something that we already have established.
Which is about a 50-50 split then?
It's like a 25-75. There's, I think, 4 or 5 faculty members. So Steve Smith and I, we've been discussing adding an English faculty and then a counselor as well, because the counselors have a lot of pulse on what the students' needs are. Greg?
How does this affect the departmental committees? You're talking about scheduling the students and their courses, right? or not?
It does not affect the departments. It's just a collection of data from people within the college to help make different decisions and feedback. Michael?
Yeah, just real quick, this was not a committee to do scheduling. It was a committee to make recommendations about best practices for scheduling. I'd also, if we're going to vote to reform this, we could, at the same time, perhaps entertain a motion to make it a standing committee of the Senate rather than a task force.
Steve?
I just also want to add that this software package does not make decisions for us. It simply provides us with areas for us to examine using a pretty easy to digest color format of red, yellow, green, telling you where there are areas of concern. So the software is only as good as the institution's willingness to use the information that comes from it.
Trying to pull up the original resolution from December 2016. There we go. Jason?
I was just going to add that Steve mentioned that it's not a decision maker. It's an analytical tool, and it certainly is not going to be turned loose like some artificial intelligent robot to run our lives for us. So we're going to have input from the departments, from all sides, the deans, and so on, as to how the data is used, what decisions are made from that data, and it's still going to be us making those decisions in conjunction with our deans and so on, as we always have.
Cooper?
Well, in addition to the software, obviously, we wanted to try and establish on the committee, the original committee, guidelines for running courses, with what kind of revenue would be associated for minimum cuts, how we could guarantee scheduling, at what point we'd roll a course that might be canceled into individualized instruction, things like that. So those, I would assume, are still going to be on the table in this.
They're still part of the original resolution to create the scheduling task force.
And those are some issues that we thought might have been resolved and apparently have not. So, there's a reason to continue with this.
I think we're proposing the reason to continue to be able to have a larger body exploring the software that's helping make the decisions, and to have more than just one person in the room making the decision, having it go across the board. Paul?
I think in our last task force, we resolved a number of issues and tried to put them forward in terms of building the schedule. I think our biggest fault was the fact we didn't have enough data to be able to make educated decisions. And I think this Ad Astra will help us in terms of being able to resolve or make a decision based on actual facts that come forward. So, and I think that's a good thing.
Greg?
There's a couple things up there that make me a little nervous, and one is the actual cost to run a course and whether it should be canceled or not. Because in the technologies, sometimes we have a course with a low enrollment, but they need it to graduate, and one of the things that we've been talking about is getting them out and getting a job. So I think some of that stuff, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this is going to come or how much pressure is going to be put on the department to establish a minimum number in the course. And if the course doesn't run 2 years, the person's going to give up and go somewhere else.
Penny?
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because we are looking at how to address that. Doing class loads based on an individual class is really not a productive way to be looking at our enrollment, particularly as we're trying to move towards guaranteed tracks for a student to finish on time. So one of the things that we started doing this year, since I've gotten here, is we're looking at, we're doing some data collecting, and we're looking at the impact of looking at enrollment as a large number, where some classes are going to be, have more students because they're basic classes, where other more advanced classes may have fewer students, and not having a hard and fast number. The class only has this many students, you're going to drop it. It's an analysis over a period of time because the revenues are going to offset each other on both sides. So, I do want you to know that as an administration is looking at how we can better manage that and not make it just a hard and fast number for each class. Because you're absolutely right. We'll never get guaranteed scheduling done. We'll never get students graduated on time if that's the way we look at it.
Derek?
I'm just going to point out that though, and I'll speak for social science because that's what I know, and I'm not saying, I don't want to suggest that I'm not interested in the new data that could come from the software, though I'm a little burned on software at this point. What we've been doing in the past, the faculty are acutely aware of what will run and what won't run, and when you should run it and when you should not run it. Because if we do a bad schedule or put a class at the wrong time, that means someone, and we can't get enough students to enroll in that. We can't get enough students to enroll in that, then that means someone's out of a class. And so, we had situations where, I'll give you an example, we intended to, and do intend to, build our online offerings, but we do demand-based scheduling at social science. And so when the demand fell for the seated night school program, or when it fell for the distance learning program, we just cut our courses because they weren't running. They weren't, we were offering too much. And so we do pay attention to it. We put our finger on the pulse of what will work and what will not work, because none of us want to be out of class. And so, we have a lot of skin in the game. And anything that would improve it, we're interested in. But I would hate to see us throw out this accumulated knowledge over, many iterations of doing scheduling because a shiny piece of software comes along and throw that out. It would be drastic. It would be tragic, in my opinion.
Penny?
I think one of the mistakes that many institutions make, and it's something that Paul was alluding to, is technology is never a solution. Technology is a tool used inside the business processes, business and academic processes that we build at the institution with the people that know what they're doing and what they're talking about. So I would hope going forward, anytime we talk about technology, where it's basically just a tool to help us better manage the business processes that we already know need to be working and in place in the school. So I'm absolutely on board with you. It drives me crazy when someone says this piece of technology is going to solve all our problems. No, it's not. It's a tool.
John Dana?
Does the final decision whether a course runs or not still reside with the academic dean as per contract?
That is a labor issue that is separate from the College Senate Scheduling Task Force. This is, the task force just analyzes the data and makes recommendations, and it gives faculty and the academic deans the opportunity to be a part of the team that analyzes the data to help with those scheduling decisions. Michael?
Two questions. Well, first of all, one statement, FFECC contract does not say academic dean, it says administration. The final say on schedules is reserved for SUNY Erie administration. Does not specify a particular office. And the other thing is, point of information, do we have a motion on the floor?
Just discussing right now. So, can I have a motion to reconvene the scheduling task force? Cooper. Second. Jason. Discussion. Michael.
I'd like to suggest a couple of amendments to that motion. First of all, I'd like to suggest that the charge be the original charges from the original resolution plus the recommendations that the original task force made. I'd like to also suggest as an amendment that an English faculty member and a counselor to be appointed by the College Senate, let's say, executive committee, be added to that task force. And that the original deadlines be ignored, and we may have to have a separate resolution for a first report. And since that's a motion to amend, we need to either agree to or vote on that motion before we vote on the original motion.
Okay, so I have a motion to amend the current resolution. What I have up on the screen is the resolution that was passed in December 2016. The due dates on there would be changed to reflect 2018-19 and going forward. And we would also add the recommendations that the College Senate Task Force put forward in September 2017, which are also on the Senate site.
And two
Hang on.
members.
Hang on, there we go. And then the membership will include English faculty and a counselor. Yes?
Not to confuse things, but are there any part-time faculty represented on this task force?
The membership is, hang on, 5 faculty members appointed by the College Senate Chair, so it doesn't designate one way or the other.
I might suggest that one be, because I think part-time faculty
Yep.
are particularly affected by class cancellations.
We had one prior, but Carolyn Storms left the college. So we did have one when the Senate Task Force was operating previously. So we would have to obviously replace her, and she was a part-time faculty member.
Good, thanks.
John Dana?
Michael made a reference to the English department being on this committee. What's so special about the English department?
You don't know? Ask him.
I believe the reasoning was for service departments that are collecting data right now. So we know that math and social science and English are collecting data regarding course scheduling and also incorporates it with scheduling. And the original task force members included people from those disciplines, but again, people have left the college. We have not confirmed with the original members of the task force if they are still willing to serve. So the membership is still flexible. Catherine?
Just to follow up on that, could I see you had a list of people that were going to be on the other document? That one, yeah.
The recommendations?
Yeah, so the major service departments, I'm wondering if we should also add the other disciplines under the deans, the divisions, all the divisions that we have, technologies, health sciences. Because there are, just like Greg had mentioned, there are items that affect us specifically that need to be talked about too.
This document is the recommendations that were made. So I don't know if we can change the recommendations. Michael?
Point of order, we have a proposed, we have a motion to amend on the floor that we have to deal with somehow before we start talking about other issues. There can be additional amendments made.
Okay.
But we have to deal with that motion now before we get into anything else. And it's either general consent or a vote.
Can't you just treat it as a friendly amendment and go modification of the original, and vote on the original motion?
There aren't any friendly amendments. It has to be general consent. Colleen can call for objections. If there are no objections, then it is accepted.
Okay, so we have on the floor a motion to amend with the things we just discussed. If this motion passes, we can add it to the scheduling task force reconvention, and then we can add additional amendments. Are there any objections to that? So by general consent, the motion passes. So now on the floor, we have the resolution to create a scheduling task force. That includes the original resolution with updated dates, with the addition of a charge, with the addition of faculty and a counselor, and the recommendations from the task force are there. Do I have a motion for this one?
It's already
Oh,
moved.
it's still there,
It's already
perfect.
moved.
All right, we have a second. Any objections or discussion on the motion? Any amendments? Catherine?
It's on. I make an amendment to add the divisions so that faculty are represented from all divisions.
Under the recommendations part, right, under this document?
On the original task force, it just said 5 faculty. I think it should be more specific and itemize the divisions so that all divisions are represented.
All right, so when we said the English person, faculty member, and the counselor, that would have moved that to 7. And we can leave it as general 7 faculty members across all divisions, appointed.
Representing all divisions?
Hang on. Is that what you meant? Okay. Yes.
And I'd like to add amendment to ensure that at least one of those faculty is part-time.
We have to vote on this first.
Okay.
Okay, so Sabrina?
If you're going to reinstate the old task force, did the members of the old task force, the 5 faculty members, represent all divisions? Because if they didn't, either you're going to have to take some of them off of the committee or you're going to have to add additional people to make sure all divisions are represented. You might need more than 7.
We have in this part, the reason for who we chose, it says, so appointed by the College Senate Chair for their expertise in statistics, data analysis, experimental design, business, and/or economics, with additional members, if any, to be ratified by a vote of the Senate. So if we find that we need further membership, we can add them with a vote to the Senate after the fact.
Yep.
So I think that addresses that line there. Penny?
We can't have more amendments until we
I
vote on
know.
the one on the floor, sorry.
So,
Representing
any,
all divisions.
all right, so representing all divisions. That's the amendment on the floor. Any objections? Okay, so with that general consent, the motion passes. Any other amendments? And if you'd like to put them both together, that'd be awesome. Yes.
Could we have ground rules that we don't bother with wordsmithing, that this can be cleaned up by the faculty senate executive committee rather than getting into wordsmithing? I think deleting that is just kind of common sense and it's
All right.
wordsmithing.
All right, that works. Your amendment to make sure at least one is part-time. And she also just told me to delete that part. All right. Faculty members. How's it look? Is that what that addresses it? Any objections? It passes. All right. Well, no, now we got to finish it.
Let's do
Right?
an actual vote.
Now we have to do an actual vote. You know, you guys are really testing me when Erica's not here. So now we got to do a real vote. She'll be so proud of me. So the motion is on the floor. It was already seconded. Any objections to the motion with all of its amendments on the floor? Greg?
Are we still open for discussion or not? John, I didn't ask you. My question is what is the purpose of this whole thing? Is this to serve the students better?
Yes.
Or to not save the college money? No. Okay.
Hopefully it will make the college more money.
Yes. All right. Any objections? All right, we're voting. To approve the matter, yay. Aye. To not approve, any abstentions? And the motion carries. We need a gavel. Yay. Michael?
Just like to suggest that the committee suggest its own reporting schedule for a vote to the Senate next time.
Perfect. We'll let them figure it out and get it back to us. And we will also contact the original members to see who's still willing and go on from there. So who's doing this one? Where'd Fabio go? No. So there's another task force. Oh, I'm in the wrong. I'm in 2016. Okay, so we have a resolution to form a student placement task force. All right, well, is that what the document said? All right, you're up.
What's happening is that our current placement testing instrument, AccuPlacer, is going into a new generation, and it's going into a new generation soon. This is an opportunity to create a college-wide conversation, not only about that short-term immediate decision to go with the new generation of AccuPlacer or not, but also to start a longer-term conversation about best practices in terms of student placement. When I say placement, I mean academic placement, not job placement. And so this is a proposal to form a Senate task force to look at both of those issues, the immediate decision and the longer-term issue of best practices for student academic placement. And I think if you scroll down a little bit, Colleen, you can see the proposed membership. Maybe it's, no, it's up, maybe? Oh,
There it is.
okay, there it is.
Steve, in Fabio's absence, do you want to maybe give us a little bit about this too? Oh, you are busted.
Yes.
On the AccuPlacer student placement task force.
Well, excuse me. We are interested in taking a look at this. Administration certainly is to do everything that we can to promote student success. I think some things that need to be out on the floor right now is first of all, is knowledge that that the AccuPlacer is changing. this coming year. We don't have a choice as to whether or not, if we were to stay with AccuPlacer, we don't have a choice as to whether or not we maintain our previous format. We have to go to that next generation AccuPlacer. An additional factor that we have to be considerate of here is the time that we're spending with rolling this out with Workday. What we don't have time to do, what we don't have the ability to do right now with IT, is to implement a solution 2 times. We do not have the bandwidth here at the institution to install whatever the findings are of this committee or this task force. We don't have the ability to install it into Colleague and then to turn around and install it into Workday. So I think it's important that we understand here what the timeline is, that this is not meant, whatever decisions are reached, they are not meant to be a quick solution or a quick fix. It's going to take time for us to get this thing done effectively. And realistically, if admissions is going live with Workday this fall, and that's barring any unforeseen problems, we're looking well into the future. So what that does mean is that at this point right now, we do need to move forward with the transition to the next generation AccuPlacer. But that does not mean we can't consider other things that are going to be more permanent for the future.
Thank you. So can I have a motion to approve this resolution? Michael? Thank you. A second? Sabrina? Discussion on this resolution. Michael Rio.
I would just like to introduce one amendment regarding the membership for this committee, and that there is listed the administrator of the English ALP course grant.
It's on there.
Yes. Well, I would like to include faculty there as well for that grant. That is a SUNY Performance Improvement Funding Grant that is supposedly faculty-led and should probably have faculty representation from that group. And that could be designated by the College Senate or the chair, but it should include the administrator of that grant as well as a faculty member.
Okay. Would that be covered in the, I'm just asking, in the English, because they're already covered?
You do have department chairs included. Department chairs should be present at those meetings as well. But this is an ongoing SUNY grant, and the faculty representation from the grant, I think, is important. The faculty are leading that grant and should be able to speak to how that grant will be affected by placement testing and make recommendations.
Okay. Jason?
I was just going to say what you just highlighted, would that take care of it?
Right. Would this, all right, so between 1 and 3 members appointed by the College Senate Chair Executive Committee, would that cover it?
If one of those members was from the Accelerated Learning Program grant in English, yes. So that might need to be stated explicitly.
Okay. Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, if that is the decision there, if we can try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I would prefer that. This is a very, very large group of people here, and I'm already very concerned about our ability to get in the same room to talk about any of this. So I personally would love to see it smaller and not grow.
So in this, to address both concerns and Michael's amendment, in this sentence here, between 1 and 3 members appointed by the College Senate Chair Executive Committee, comma,
To include 1 faculty member from the English Accelerated Learning Program grant. At least 1 or more, or at least 1. How about at least?
how about 1? There's other disciplines.
That's fine too. Well, okay. For that language, though, if there were other categories that overlapped with the ALP English grant, then we don't want to exclude that to just 1. There may be an appointment as a chair that is also participating in the grant. Or at least one seems to be less restrictive, but doesn't intend that there have to be more than one. To include at least one faculty member.
Well, at least one means one or more that the Senate chair appoints. The department chairs, whether or not they're on the ALP faculty side, are automatically included, and so is their designee. So I don't think that matters.
I'm only offering that because if you were to choose to include more than one, then you would have that choice. And I'm sorry, this might be wordsmithing. I see Mike's hand up.
Michael?
I believe that the Senate chair already has that choice.
Right. I think by saying one, that guarantees you get one, and then I have the ability to choose beyond that. Okay. So here is the amended resolution. Any questions or objections about this amendment? Get good at this, guys. All right, no objections. The motion passes. Now back to the original resolution that has now been amended to include an ALP faculty member as one of the chair appointments. Are there any objections or questions about this resolution in its current form? Okay, so we will vote by hands, because that's what we're practicing today. By voice. All right, so to approve, aye. To not approve, to abstain, the motion carries. All right, where are we now? Faculty Council of the Community Colleges has 3 motions from or resolutions that they would like for us to endorse. One is the new funding model for community colleges. One is for supporting childcare funding for our students. And the other is a resolution on gender inclusivity. I can pull them up in a second. If, Michael, you could give us a background while I get those ready.
By the way, I'd like to defer my plenary report to a future meeting.
Okay.
Okay? The funding report, or the funding resolution, has to do with the new, what is apparently a consensus across the whole system, including New York State United Teachers, approach to funding community colleges, which is basically, they're calling it a floor, which basically means that no community college, regardless of enrollment drops, will be funded at a level lower than the previous year by the state, if, of course, this passes the state. And then there is also a request, or going to be a request for an additional, you might want to go down to the resolves, an additional, I believe, $150 per FTE. Basically, CUNY City University of New York last year had a very different proposal, but they're willing to go with this. New York State United Teachers is willing to go with this. College presidents, Faculty Council of Community Colleges, the trustees organization are all on board, and the students are all on board with this particular funding model for advocacy for state funding for next year. And we're just looking for a vote of, agreement, support.
Support. Okay. So this is the new funding model for community colleges that came to us, that passed unanimously from the Faculty Council of Community Colleges. Can I have a motion to approve? Patty. Second? Cooper. Questions or objections? Or discussion? With no objections or discussion, I'm going to say the motion passes. We will endorse this resolution. All right, let me get the other ones. There's 2 more. Okay, childcare funding. This also passed unanimously in October by the Faculty Council of Community Colleges. you want to talk about it?
Yeah, could you take it down a little bit to the resolves, please?
Yep.
Or just, yes, all necessary parties are being urged to increase child care funding for the community college child care centers by $2 million. Right there, and we're also asking SUNY and all other parties to please advocate for the same thing. The child care centers at the community colleges are crucial to the success of a great many of our community college students.
Can I have a motion to approve? Patty. Second, John Dana. Questions or discussion on the resolution? Greg Gillis.
One of the problems is space. I think we have a limit on space and a limited number of people that can be serviced by our child care facilities. Is there any way that we're going to increase space or be
I
able
think
to
this
handle
is
more
more
students?
along the lines of the fact that the money that has been given to the colleges have been reduced by 55%, which is $2 million over the last 10 years, which reduces the service that we can provide our students regardless of space. So this is asking to replace the money that the state has cut from the operating budget to help fund childcare for our students.
So it's not an attempt to increase?
No.
Okay.
It's to replace funds that were already taken. Other discussion? Objections on the resolution? So we're going to go with the motion carries. We have one more on gender exclusivity. Inclusivity. All the rules have been getting tested today. I'm done. Okay, so I have a resolution supporting gender inclusivity within SUNY. This also passed unanimously in October at the Faculty Council of Community Colleges. I'm going to scroll down to the resolves. And again, these have been up on the site for a little bit. So we see that we want to provide a safe and welcoming environment for faculty, staff, students, and visitors on our campuses, requiring space that it can accommodate diverse identities and identity expression. The use of a chosen name that may be different from the person's legal name is a long-standing informal practice. And resolved that the Faculty Council of Community Colleges encourages Chancellor Johnson to organize a collaborative work group that includes representatives designated by University Faculty Senate, Student Assembly, and the Faculty Council of Community Colleges to promote gender inclusivity on SUNY campuses. Can I have a motion to approve this resolution? Andy? Second, Tracy. Any discussion on the matter? Questions? Okay, so, Andy?
Please. I don't see anything in there that talks about, I guess, what this means for in the classroom.
Which part?
So I'm just thinking about how it's because it seems just a little vague of how we end up applying this to things like how to use a person's name in the classroom and things like that.
Well, I have an example. I had a student, and it's a trans female. Former name was Connor, and the current name is Chloe. And even though her name showed up as Connor on my Blackboard gradebook and on my roster, she preferred Chloe, so I called her Chloe. Michael?
This resolution is really just asking for a SUNY work group to make recommendations about these kinds of issues. It's not asking for any specific practices or policies at this point.
But I think the
that's
work
all
group-
it's asking for.
Right, and I think the work group would end up giving recommendations for scenarios, just like you're asking about. Any other questions or discussion on this resolution? Okay, so with that, I'm going to say that the motion carries. So we will inform the Faculty Council of Community Colleges that Erie Community College endorses all three to help our students. Okay, so we are at the end. Our next meeting is going to be December 11th in this room at 2:30 p.m. There is the STEM event tonight. If you didn't know about it, you know about it now. So if you happen to be available at 6 p.m., that's over in the STEM building. And then we also have a Thanksgiving break coming up. So I'd like to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. And this meeting is convened for the day. Turn off the mic.